Sudan has been gripped by a violent conflict since mid-April, when a power struggle between the head of the army and the leader of a paramilitary group erupted into open warfare. The fighting has killed hundreds of people, displaced more than 1 million, and disrupted essential services and humanitarian aid. But there is a glimmer of hope for peace. On May 20th, Sudan's warring factions signed an agreement for a 7-day ceasefire, brokered by the US and Saudi Arabia. The deal aims to stop the fighting for 7 days, allow unhindered humanitarian access, and restore essential services. The ceasefire agreement was signed by the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, and the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, the two main groups involved in the conflict. The SAF is loyal to General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, who heads the military council that took over after former President Omar al-Bashir was ousted, and the RSF is led by Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, also known as Hemedti, who was Burhan's deputy in the council until they fell out over power sharing. The agreement was reached after several rounds of talks in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, with the mediation of U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan. It is the first such agreement between the groups since the fighting broke out, and it will be supported by a U.S., Saudi, and international ceasefire monitoring mechanism. The agreement also paves the way for further talks to address the steps needed to reach a permanent cessation of hostilities and resume a democratic transition. Sudan had been undergoing a fragile transition to civilian rule under a power-sharing deal between the military and civilian forces, but that was derailed by the outbreak of violence. The U.S. and Saudi Arabia have urged both sides to uphold the agreement and respect international humanitarian law. They have also called for the involvement of Sudanese civilian stakeholders and the support of the regional and international community in finding a political solution to the crisis. The ceasefire agreement is a welcome development, but it remains to be seen if it will hold and lead to lasting peace. Previous ceasefires have failed to stop the fighting, which has continued in various parts of Sudan, especially in the capital Khartoum and its neighboring cities. The situation on the ground remains tense and volatile, with reports of airstrikes, shelling, looting, and human rights violations. The people of Sudan are suffering from the consequences of the conflict, which has worsened an already dire humanitarian situation. Millions of people are in need of food, water, health care, shelter, and protection. Many have fled their homes and sought refuge in neighboring countries or safer areas within Sudan. Aid agencies are struggling to reach them amid security challenges and access restrictions. The world cannot turn a blind eye to this humanitarian crisis. The international community must step up its efforts to provide humanitarian assistance and pressure both parties to respect the ceasefire and engage in dialogue. The people of Sudan deserve peace, stability, and democracy.